The emphasis is not on Brahman, the Absolute, whose complete perfection does not admit any change or evolution, but on the personal Ishvara, omniscient and omnipotent, who is manifested Brahma. Thus, Upanishad teaches the unity of the souls and the world in the one supreme reality. It is an attempt to reconcile the different philosophical and religious views which prevailed in the time of its composition. So Upanishad teaches mainly the identity between the supreme, that is the Brahman and Atma. So this is going to be the predominant teaching in the whole of Upanishad. And in the various different Upanishads, they are insisting on particular aspect, but not in any way diminishing the main teaching, that is the relation between the Supreme, that is a Paramatma, and the Atma, that is the individual self. So that is Supreme Self, that is Brahma and Atman. Atman and Brahman, the relationship between the two. So what a person really needs to understand is that of what is the true identity of a human person and how it is going to be realized. So this is the philosophical teaching with regard to the Upanishadic teaching, and that gives more value to all what is said in the Vedas. So although Upanishad is part of the Vedas, one of the components of the Vedas, it is Upanishad, the philosophical teaching. And this is what we see in the Svetasatra Upanishad. Next one is Ishavasya Upanishad. Ishavasya Upanishad derives its name from the opening word of the text, Ishavasya or Isha, meaning Lord, that encloses all the moves in the world. Greatly revered, this short Upanishad is often put at the beginning of the Upanishads and marks the trend towards monotheism in the Upanishads. Its main purpose is to teach essential unity of God and the world, being and becoming. It is interested not so much in the absolute in itself, that is a Parabrahman, as in the absolute in relation with the world, Parameshwara. It says that renouncing the world and not coveting the possessions of others can bring joy. The Isha Upanishad concludes with a prayer to the Surya, that is sun, and Agni, the fire. So Isha Upanishad, often quoted Upanishad, is that. So which tells about the what is going to be very important for the human life, that is the absolute in relation with the world, Parameshwara. It says that renouncing the world and not coveting the possessions of others, that is going to bring joy for the person. Next one is the Prashna Upanishad. Prashna Upanishad belongs to Atharva Veda and has 6 sections dealing with 6 questions or prashna put to a sage by his disciples. The very word, that is prashna, that means the questions. The questions are from where are all the creatures born? How many angels support and illumine creatures, and which is supreme? What is the relationship between life, breath and the soul? What are sleep, waking and dreams? What is the result of meditating on the word Om? What are the 16 parts of the spirit? This Upanishad answers all these 6 vital questions. So Prashna Upanishad, what questions a human being has got, and this is not a simple questions, but very well much depth in that, or something which affects the growth of a human being in the way of understanding, or what is the purpose of human existence here, and all such questions connected with that. For example, where are all the creatures from? So the creation, how does a creature or a being come into existence? How many angels support and illumine the creature, and which is supreme? What is the relationship between the life breath and the soul? So soul is something which we are not able to see with the naked eye or the sense perception. We don't see it, just like we would be seeing any of the material things which are verifiable with our sense perceptions. Whereas soul, mind, these things are not very much perceptible to the sense data or sense perception. They do not come under the sense perception. I'm not able to touch, see, hear, smell, and like that. So they are not part of the sense data. Therefore, it is difficult to see or grasp or understand. Therefore, the questions come. So what is the relationship between life, breath, and soul? The breath, perhaps I'm not able to see, but I can see the process or the movement that I'm able to feel. Whereas air as such, only the effect of air I'm able to see, but not at this by the naked eye. But I can feel certain things about it. That's so to a certain extent. Then what about this life, breath, and the soul? What are sleep, waking, and dreams? Then what is the result of meditating on the word Om? So Om is very much insisted, or the Adi Shabda it is said. So that itself has got a deep or a very rich meaning of that Om. So what are the 16 parts of the spirit? So this Upanishad, that is Prashna Upanishad, that seems to answer all these questions. Next one in the line is Mundakya Upanishad. Mundakya Upanishad belongs to Atharva Veda and is an exposition of the principle of Om as consisting of three main elements, A, U, M, or A, U, M, which may be used to experience the soul itself. It contains 12 verses that delineate 4 levels of consciousness: waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and 4th mystical state of being one with the soul. The Upanishad by itself, it is said, is enough to lead one to liberation. That is Mundakya Upanishads. Mundakya Upanishad belongs to Atharva Veda, which is an exposition on the principle of Om. We have just said that in the Prashna Upanishad, what is the result of meditating on the word Om. And then the Mundakya Upanishad, then we have an explanation on that word Om, which has got 3 elements, A, U, M, which may be used and to experience the soul itself. The next one, the Upanishad which we want, one of the principal Upanishads, is Maitri Upanishad. The Maitri Upanishad is last of what are known as the principal Upanishad. So altogether there may be quite a number of them, but we are dealing only with the principal Upanishads, 13 of them. It recommends meditation upon the soul, Atman, and life, Prana. It says that the body is like a chariot without intelligence, but it is driven by an intelligent being who is pure, tranquil, breathless, selfless, undying, unborn, steadfast, independent, and endless. The charioteer is the mind. The reins are the 5 organs of perception or sense perception or Panchendriya. The horses are the organs of action, and the soul is unmanifest, imperceptible, incomprehensible, selfless, steadfast, stainless, and self-abiding. It also tells the story of a king that is Brihatada, who realized that his body is not eternal and went into forest to practice austerity and sought liberation from reincarnating existence. So Maitreya Upanishad is the last in that line of the Upanishad or the principal Upanishads. So we have all these Upanishads, what we have said about, or our search with regard to the Upanishads. So we have seen the origin, the importance, and the main teachings which are contained in the Upanishad, and then we have gone through the principal Upanishad, 13 of them. Now in all these Upanishads, we are looking into what is the basic principles in that, the philosophical teaching. Even though the Upanishads do not offer a single comprehensive system of thought, they do develop some basic general principles. Some of these principles are samsara, karma, dharma, and moksha. So all these principles, or this Upanishadic teaching, they are having some basic elements in their teaching. And some of these principles are samsara, karma, dharma, moksha. These principles form metaphysical scheme which was shared with varying adjustments made by most Indian religions and philosophers. So this is the main content in the religion and in the philosophy. That is samsara, karma, dharma, and moksha. Samsara, karma, dharma, moksha. The concept of samsara is reincarnation. The idea that after we die, our soul will be reborn again in another body, perhaps in an animal, perhaps as a human, perhaps as a god, but always in regular cycle of deaths and resurrections. So that is the principle of samsara. Depending on that means when in your lifetime you are under the spell of karma. So every time that action is going on, and every action produces fruit, it's an effect or fruit. It's good fruit or bad fruit, depending on the type of your actions. So if you are going to accumulate more of the good fruits, then the chance of your life at present will decide about your future. So it is going on the cyclic way till you are able to break that chain and get into the liberation. So that is the concept of samsara. Another concept is the karma, which literally means action. The idea that all actions have consequences, good or bad. So all actions are attached to the consequences of good or bad. Karma determines the conditions of next life, just like our life is conditioned by our previous karma. There is no judgment or forgiveness, simply an impersonal, natural and eternal law operating in the universe. Those who do good will be reborn in better conditions, while those who are evil will be reborn in worse conditions. So you can see the cyclic or the concept of the samsara, which is induced by the karma. Karma is a theory which is said to be an impersonal, natural and eternal law operating in the universe. The entire universe is under the theory of karma. So how things evolve, so what is the natural justice or the eternal system is not governed by God according to the Vedic teaching, but it is the law of karma. So depending on your actions, the fruit of your action is going to be either good or bad. If good fruit, then the chance of being born to a higher realm of life is going to be possible. On the other hand, if the accumulation of the karmic effects, that is the bad effects, then the chance of going down in the ladder of life. So those who do good will be reborn in better conditions, while those who are evil will be reborn in worse conditions. So we have the basic teachings of the Upanishads. A few things can be pointed out. That is samsara, karma, dharma, moksha. So we have said about samsara and karma. What is dharma? Means right behavior or duty. The idea that we all have a social obligation. Dharma, means to hold on to your nature, to be true to your nature, the right behavior or duty. The idea that we all have a social obligation. Each member of a specific caste has a particular set of responsibilities. A dharma, for example, among the Kshatriyas, the warrior caste, it was considered a sin to die in bed. Dying in the battlefield was the highest honor they could aim for. In other words, dharma encouraged people of different social groups to perform their duties the best they could. So that is the type of the idea that is regarding the dharma. What is dharma? To be true to your nature. Dharma foresees the different classification or the four classification of Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas and Shudra, and each group is given a particular duty altogether differently, and the performance of that duty was expected to be the highest way of being true to that the state of your life. Of course, it may have had also a very bad implication, connotation, or something, the rigid way of looking at it, although perhaps the intention was to create or evolve a society wherein every aspect is looked into. But later on it became a means of exploitation. That's where we faltered, or people were divided and really kept away from one another, creating a lot of confusion, not giving the due share of human dignity to persons. So perhaps that had been the side effects or the ill effect of the caste system. The next principle or the main elements which we find in the teachings of Upanishads is the moksha, means liberation or release. The eternal cycle of deaths and resurrection can be seen as a pointless repetition with no ultimate goal attached to it. Seeking permanent peace or freedom from suffering seems impossible, for sooner or later we will be reborn in worse circumstances. Moksha is the liberation from this never-ending cycle of incarnation, a way to escape this repetition. But what would it mean to escape from this cycle? What is that awaits the soul that manages to be released from samsara? To answer this question, we need to look into the concept of Atman and Brahman. So in all the Upanishadic teaching, the dominant theme is the relationship between Atman and Brahman. So the Mahavakya would say that Aham Brahmasmi or Tattvamasi. So I am that, or I and the Brahman one and the same. So as long as we are not able to realize that identity or realize that or come to the awareness of that reality, perhaps we will be in continuous birth, there endless circle of samsara, not able to free ourselves from that. The moment we begin to realize, then we see the whole importance that the supreme and that of the self, it is one and the same. That true identity is being realized here. So one of the great insights in the Upanishad is Atman and Brahman are made of the same substance. Aham Brahmasmi. When a person achieves moksha or liberation, Atman returns to Brahman, to the source, like a drop of water returning to the ocean. The Upanishads claim that it is an illusion that we are all separate. With this realization, we can be freed from ego, from reincarnation, and from the suffering we experience during our existence. Moksha, in a sense, means to be reabsorbed into Brahman, into the great world soul. So that is going to be the real way, or the real teaching what we have in the Upanishad is regarding that. So how do you realize the ultimate reality or your relationship between the Supreme Self and Atman? So Atman-Brahman relationship. So as long as we are only able to see the duality of it, then we continue in that cyclic births, death, reincarnation, samsara, way of samsara. The moment you want to liberate, or you are on the path of liberation, what is required to see the true identity of yours. So Upanishadic teaching is insisting on that. That is the true identity, how to realize, and the moment you realize that, then you are on the way of liberation. The Upanishadic texts. The Upanishadic texts are part of the Shruti literature and are considered to be divine origin. They are associated with the names of several ancient seers. Some of these lived at least 20 generations before Lord Krishna and the probable date of Mahabharata war. Prominent among these sages were Yajnavalkya, Uttalaka Aruni, Santilya, Aitreya, Pipalapada, and Santakumara. So some of the basic texts which are named after great sages and seers. Today there are estimated about 350 Upanishads, some well known and some least known. The Bhagavad Gita of Lord Krishna is also considered to be an Upanishad because it contains the essence of many of the Upanishads. We have listed, or we can list almost 180 Upanishads as per the list contained in the Mundokya Upanishad. We have arranged them in 4 categories according to the particular Veda to which each of them belong to. The very important among these have been shown in bold letters. In the notes you can find that. These Upanishads for which we have English translations are shown prominently. So the list you will be getting in the class notes just to go through or have an awareness of which belongs to which of these 4 Vedas and the Upanishad belonging to that particular, that is Upanishad as contained in the Mundokya Upanishad, and we have arranged in 4 categories of this Upanishad, the 108 of them, the main ones. So perhaps there are 350 Upanishads, some of them are well known, some are least known. And Bhagavad Gita also said to be one of those Upanishad because it contains the essence of many of the Upanishads. Thus we have come to, or we are closing the chapter on Upanishad, or the classes on Upanishads. So what is most important in this Upanishadic teaching is that, or it is also called the Vedanta, end of Vedas. It is forming part of the Vedas. As we have seen, Vedas are the 4 Chatur Vedas. And how did they come about? The composition of all the hymns that were collected, and certain principles were applied, and all these hymns were codified and put it into 4 Vedas, Chatur Vedas. That is Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Atharva Veda. And all these 4 Vedas having also 4 components. And one of the components is Upanishad. But Upanishad is the one which is giving the main or real value to all the other aspects. The philosophical teaching or the real, what it is aiming at, that is being said in the Upanishad. So this is what we find in the importance of the Upanishads.